Hello, everyone. This is our fortnightly backdrop design meeting. Today is Thursday, November 17th. As is our practice, we will go around the room, everyone introduce themselves, give their name, handle, location, and if you want, say a few things about what you've been working on. I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet. I'm in Altadena, California. And lately I've been working on Civi CRM infrastructure and contrib modules, bug fixes and the like. And then I'll pass it over to Martin.
Hi, I'm Martin from Northeast England, and I've primarily been working on contrib recently. B and also a few other modules. I'll pass it over to Joseph.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada. And I think Tim's the last one.
Oh, there's still me. I'm Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim. I am in Deerwood, Minnesota. And we just had our first big snow of the year, about 6 inches of snow 2 days ago. So there's a tractor plowing next to my window if anybody hears any noises. So again, we're here for a design and UX meeting. We chatted briefly about 1 or 2 issues that we can at least update people on. If anybody is watching via YouTube and wants to put an issue in Zulip that they'd like us to talk about, let us know. Are there just any general updates, sort of community things we could mention? There was a discussion in Zulip today about commerce and UberCart and what's the right commerce solution for backdrop, which I think everybody would say it's at the time UberCart is your option. So if anybody wants to talk about that, go to Zulip today or anytime. There are some forum posts on this topic as well too, where you can talk about it. Yeah, why don't we, since you had an issue, Martin, that you posted in the, we have every week there's a forum post with for the next upcoming week's meeting. And if you have agenda items you want us to talk about, you want to share them in advance, put them in the forum post. Martin, I think you have the only one this week, right? So if you could tell us a little bit about the issue. And actually feel free to share your screen. And
Yeah, I will do. Oh yes, you can see your
the snow plowing. Okay, tell us about this.
Flooding in a few parts of England. It's not too bad where we are, but okay. So this is the issue, and you can see that I will open up the. There's a couple of animations here, but what I will do is open up the actual site just so you can see it better. So I use dark reader on certain sites because I don't like too much white when I'm seeing. That's why it looks different. It's not a different theme. So this is functions, which arguably is quite an important page, and you can't see the first 6, the first sort of dozen functions because of this. There is another one that is the classes one, which is even worse. that covers an even larger proportion of the table for those first ones. Now on the discussion, which after I posted the thing, a few Jen and Robert hopped on and pointed out that on the form API reference page, it doesn't have that issue. And what it seems to be doing on that form API reference is it's pushing it down to the bottom, which is great. And I think is probably the right solution for anywhere it's going to be, where the content is going to be too wide and is going to encroach into that space. So what I don't know but is how straightforward it is to say, right, we've done this on this page, we want to do that on this page and that page and any others that we find that are done. And I don't know how that gets done. So that's really that issue in a nutshell. Really, I think it's possibly quite easy to fix. It might be a layout thing. It might be a CSS thing. I have no idea because I haven't looked at the back end of the docs site. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Robert.
I was going to say, so kind of related to that, even on pages where things aren't covered up, just the fact that we have that sidebar squeezes the content, and so which ends up anything that's tabular squeezes the individual columns a lot, and it would just improve readability if though even pages that aren't ruined could fill out the full width of the screen, just so that I'm looking. I noticed this after seeing this issue, and then I noticed this in the views handler string class page. The has a table of the function and modifiers and type and description, and they're all squeezed, and it's a really long page, and for most of that page, that right column is white space because the menu is small. So I think the solution could potentially improve all of the pages of the site. I don't know what that is. Maybe just to throw out that this might be a place for that menu to be a sort of a pop out from the left type menu, where most of the time you don't see it and you just click on it to pop it out and jump to a particular page.
Yeah. Which one was it you said was squished? Was it views handler?
Views handler string. I will put the link in the chat. I mean, this is just one example. There's a lot of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that the width of the column, I mean, for just like paragraph text is not bad, right? You don't want to stretch that out too far because that gets hard to read. The problem is, of course, certainly these tables are a problem. I know, well, even in the forum, we have problems with like really long links where they just overlap with the right column. There are other problems like this on not just this site, but on some of our other sites, where certain kinds of content it doesn't handle well, and we have not been very good at fixing some of these little bugs on our infrastructure sites. I don't know. I mean, Robert, you present a plausible solution. There has been talk about sort of a design refresh on backdrop.org, which, could carry over to all of our infrastructure sites, or we could start maybe on something like the doc site. But I mean, it doesn't make any sense to talk about a design refresh without the resources to do that, which would be a volunteer willing to take a look at this stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to think, we do kind of use that same format on backdrop.org, don't we? Yeah. We still have that right column is like on all of our sites. The doc site is probably the worst though. And then I think after that is the forum. I frequently see stuff on the forum kind of merging into the right column.
So I think all of the properties use the board theme,
Right.
and then B.org sub themes that have its own backdrop CNS.org sub theme.
Well,
yeah, and then it looks like events sub themes that could get an events site and an events theme. And forum, so that all the sites sub-theme board.
Okay. Well, the issue that Martin raised it's a fairly serious one, more serious than some of the other examples that I can think of, and it probably really should be fixed. It sounds like it's probably technically not hard for at least a limited fix, and not the ideal situation, Robert, that you're talking about. But I think that what you're talking about is going to require a bigger design discussion that I don't want to wait for. It'd be better to just get that fixed. But we shouldn't lose this idea that these sites do need a bit of a design refresh, and be thinking about how to make that happen, or looking for the resource, the resources, the people willing to put some time into it. So this is the design UX meeting, so both are appropriate topics. I don't know what more to say. We have, for anybody listening, there's a handful of people that have, if you're interested in helping us with our infrastructure sites, our internal sites, there are processes where you can contribute and help upgrade them. Unfortunately, I think there's only a handful of people, and even that is ambitious. There's only a couple of people who have kind of on a regular basis made things like CSS changes to our internal sites, and Robert's one of them. And I hate to put any more on Robert because he's done so much already. I, from time to time, try to get set up with a local environment so that I can do this kind of work, but I never get around to it. And really, you need a local environment to test things out. I wonder if we shouldn't be actively looking towards some sort of cloud-based tool, because I know they're out there now where people could spin up and make things like CSS changes, or at least pull requests without having to set it up locally. If anybody, I know there are these tools out there. So if we could, if a user could, the Dev Panel is a tool that actually does work with Backdrop and allows you to spin up an instance in the cloud with a text editor. And if we had something like that for this kind of development, it might get more people willing to help. But that's I think our blocker right now, is that it's just the work of getting these sites set up locally. It isn't, it's not crazy hard, but it's just enough to prevent some people from doing it, like me.
Yeah, I have to say, I think because I suppose it's not just a case of cloning the config. You've got to probably clone the documentation, the actual
Yeah.
content as well.
You need to get the database. So you need a sanitized version of the database.
Yeah, so there are sanitized versions of
Yeah.
backdrop databases and files for all of the sites. The docs now currently, because we have City CRM on b.org, and we don't yet have sanitized versions of the City CRM database. That's actually my next organizational volunteer task I volunteered to work on. But the docs site is non-City CRM, has sanitized databases, and so it should be.
It does
cool.
actually look like it's got a Lando recipe, so it might actually be relatively straightforward to set it up. So I might have a go when I feel I've got time, but
Well, that would be great. I know you're really busy and doing a lot of work on B right now, but absolutely, if we could get more people set up. It isn't that it's hard to do, especially if you're familiar with Lando and once you get sort of looped into the process. But for example, access to the sanitized databases, you have to ask for that access before you get it. We're not, anybody who says they're willing to work on these sites, we'll give you access to the sanitized databases, but it's like, it isn't that the obstacles to doing this are big, but they're just nuanced enough that I think it does sort of slow down the development a bit, and it limits the number of people. As I said, personally, it's like, I know how to do this. I just never get around to quite, because I know that it's going to take me a chunk of time to get it set up, and then I need to be focused, and I just don't find that time.
Yeah, looking at them, from what I can tell, it looks like the form API is maybe a view rather than a page, and so it's maybe got its own layout, but I can't see the detail of that. So I don't know how. I don't know how we would go about applying that to the others without seeing that, but
so our internal sites tend to get neglected in general, and I hesitate to say that in your presence, Robert, because you're doing so much work on them that is appreciated. So you're not neglecting them, but you can't do everything. What I think one thing that we've tried before is to have like an infrastructure week, where we just sort of say, it's all it means is that for like a week or 10 days, we say, hey, anybody that can this week, let's try to focus on getting some of our infrastructure work done. And I've declared infrastructure a few times, and I think at least once it kind of worked. We also scheduled a sprint on like a Saturday of infrastructure week, where some of us just sort of logged in and tried to get a number of issues done. Maybe early December might actually not be a bad time for something like an infrastructure week, just because people, maybe their workload is slowing down a little bit at the end of the year. And also, just if more than one people are doing it, again, I don't know that it would affect Robert, you any, because you're already putting quite a bit of time into it. But what it might do is get a couple of other people focused on it. I'm willing to declare that I will make the first week of December infrastructure week for me, if anybody wants to join me. And I'll just try to go ahead and get set up and see if I can help with some of these issues. Okay. Well, I don't plan to make a real big deal about it, but let's put it in Slack or in Zulip. And if anybody else is inspired and wants to, and maybe we could use the office hours that week, Martin, to actually try to, address one or two. And if anybody wants to come into office hours and get help setting up their local instance to work on I would say the three main, well, there's four of them now, the event site. So this could apply to issues on the event site, the documentation site, the forum site, or backdrop.org.
Mm.
Okay. Anything else on that issue? Let's move on and talk about one other issue that I don't know. This was an issue that just came up. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It's a brand new issue, just opened 2 days ago. Clicking hashtag scrolls too far. Trying to think if I have an easy site I can open up to actually demonstrate. Well, is there? No, there isn't. Anyways, the issue apparently is linking to ID tags, right? Anchor tags is overshooting or not linking to quite the right place. There's a few CSS suggestions here. We don't have a pull request on this yet, but if this is an issue that anybody has any thoughts on, recommend you take a look at it. Sometimes when an issue like this gets a little momentum, we can get it fixed really quick. So anybody here have anything they want to say about this? Or Robert, I described it correctly, right? You said you'd looked at it a little bit before.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it looks like a couple of people have proposed CSS solutions, but from skimming the issue, my sense is that there's some concerns that the fixes are too specific. And so what we're looking for is a solution that will be more general throughout background CMS. So the other thing we can do at a UX meeting, I don't think we have any other issues. Oh, there was, so to look for these, first thing I do is I just go to the issues in the backdrop issue queue, and I make sure I'm sorting by recently updated. And I can sort of scroll through here, and we see some UX issues have a little UX tag in the title. And that this one is, the admin bar one is already marked ready to be committed. I don't think we need to talk about that one. There's another one here, add an option to lock the aspect ratio when resizing images. Again, just picking issues that have a little bit of momentum. This is one that was opened back in 2016, but Indigozilla recently sort of revived it, I think back in October. And there's been a flurry of activity. I'm not quite sure exactly if this is the issue. Do we not have this option right now in backdrop? Does anybody know? Nobody knows.
I've never seen that option.
Okay, so I think this is this is the Drupal 7 editor. And so presumably then what this issue is about is adding something like that to backdrop.
To lock the aspect ratio?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that you can resize the image. Do we have a pull request for this? We do. So PR needs work. It looks like there is a PR that it needs some feedback. If anybody is interested in this issue, give it a look. I don't have anything to add on that though. We also, we talked about this one a few weeks ago, the CK editor, provide default styles. One of the motivations, I'm just going to add something to this. One of the motivations for this, or the primary motivation, is really to make it easier for users to understand how they can add default styles. If there's some there when you get there, we actually just had a forum post this week for somebody asking how to create. So if we go to the how to, in fact, the very most recent question in the forum is, I would like to add custom styles to CK editor, but he couldn't figure out how to do it. And there is some help here. But anyways, that was part of my motivation, is that I find that there isn't good documentation. And every time I want to do this, every time I want to find create default styles, I have to remember or relearn how to do it, and it's a nuisance. So that's another. This is
I wanted
the
to-
issue. Sorry. Go ahead, Joseph.
I actually ran into an issue with that a while back. It's been a long time, so I don't really remember the details, but I wanted to add a style that added the button class to links,
Right.
and that was actually really hard to do. So I
Yeah.
feel like that would be like an extremely useful use case that's very hard for people to figure out. So that would be a good example to put in there.
Yeah, I'd be curious why that's so hard to do, because that's one I've also thought about giving like my clients or whatever. But I don't know that I've tried that. The one that I recently tried that also turned out to be really hard to do, and I don't know if I brought it up last week, is columns. And I don't know if you were there, Joseph, but I want to basically have a list. If there's a list of 20 items on a page, I'd like to be able to create a custom style where you just select those 20 items and then you tap, click on the 2-column style, and it works. And there is some great CSS classes or CSS rules to do this. The problem is that the way those the styles work is it applies the HTML tags that you set to each item. So I couldn't, and I think quick sketch, Nate gave a way to maybe handle this, but I wasn't able to group the proper CSS around the entire list. It wanted to mark each individual item with that CSS, which didn't work for me. But I think Nate had a suggestion. I need to play with some more. Anyways, if you're interested in that, I think it's on the dev meeting last week. Yeah, anyways, anything else? I'm just browsing through. Oh, let's close that tab. Just looking through the backdrop issue queue. Again, issues. Make sure we're sorted by recently updated. We start. Now, not all UX issues have this UX tag. I'm just using that as a shortcut right now. Oh, I was going to start to mention the one, this one, all at alt styles. Well, we've talked a lot about this lately.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's had I don't know whether anyone on here has had chance to look at what the requirements are and validate them, or if anyone watching would like to go and do it. So it's all the stories and acceptance criteria have been added to the top of the ticket on request of the meeting last week. So if you haven't looked at them, then do, because we still need to find someone who's got the skills and is happy to sort of take on the development of this, because it's going to involve changes to how things are done in the database and changes to how things are handled, and it's not a trivial undertaking. But if we can get the requirements right and people are happy that this represents functionality that we want and it's accurate, then anyone developing it can have a lot more confidence that what they're developing is going to then be is not going to, if they meet those criteria, it's not going to meet resistance. So it's a kind of, if you like it, please say so that we've got validation. If you don't like it, say so, or forever hold your peace.
Yes. So we're just looking for is this the right solution to this problem?
Yeah.
And the problem, right, at a very high level is we want to be able to, when we manage images in backdrop.org, when you place them, you can add a alt in a title field, right? But we can't add that right now. Those fields are not stored with the image; They're stored with the placement of the image in a node. So if you go to place the same image on another page, you have to add the alter title field again. And each time you place it, you have to do that. And this is trying to make it so that the data is stored with the image and you don't have to keep replacing it.
Yeah, but it also has an override as well. So
Yeah. Exactly.
Right,
It
to
allows
cover
you to
that
have that
too.
option.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to verify the criteria, make sure this is the way we want it to work, and then we need to find somebody that's interested in helping write the PR.
Yeah.
Any other issues that anybody wants to talk about? Otherwise, we could maybe just have the meeting a little early today and have a bit of a break before the dev meeting. There's another. Do we have a UX? So the last thing I wanted, actually, I think there might be a project for UX issues. Is if you're interested in UX issues. I don't see one that's like all of the UX issues. So I was just thinking if there's other ways that people can find good UX issues. I don't think we have a tag for UX issues. What we do is we use that little UX. So you can search by, if you want to find UX issues, you can do this, right? Actually, I would just do that because somebody might have. And then if you go to issues, we've got over 1,000 issues with the UX tag, but that probably includes closed ones as well. So here we go. There you can see, that's one good way to find a whole bunch of UX issues that you can deal with. I'm going to stop sharing, and if nobody has anything else, let's end the meeting.
All right.